Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about Dog Soldiers from 2002, directed by Neil Marshall. And joining me today is Wolves of Chernobyl author Owen Quinn. How are you, Owen?
I am very roasted today because it's really hot. So I've been out sitting. I had loads of plans to do stuff, but it sort of got really hot. I've just sort of sat about and
Yeah,
didn't really do anything. Bar drink lots of water.
yeah. It's hard to do anything when that sun's out there tempting you.
Yeah. And this time I didn't run out into the street and take my shirt off and just did it out the back so nobody could see me.
Too much information, Owen.
Too much information. I am at the gym, folks. Trust me, it'll all be better in about 3 months.
He's fixing it. He's fixing it.
Yeah, I bought a pair of red shorts there, my Baywatch shorts. So
Ah,
that's what we're aiming for.
so you'll be looking like David Hasselhoff.
Well, hopefully a better looking version, a shorter version.
So this is another werewolf movie. I thought this would be a good one to do next because we recently talked about Silver Bullet, which was a very underrated werewolf movie. This one, um, again, I don't hear enough people talking about this. I really enjoy this movie. It's the budget was something like I think it was 2.3 million pounds in 2002. So I don't know what that is adjusted for inflation, but small budget that they managed to do a lot with. Um, what do you think of the look of the movie and the special effects and all that, considering the budget?
Very, very good. Um, I hear this one for me. Everybody that I know loves it,
Yeah.
and I have a bit of a special connection to this one as well.
Oh,
But I think for what they did, um, I do know it's a sort of like it's like a network. So if you needed a Jeep, as you might do in this movie, well, they do in this movie, there's people you can ask and they can borrow stuff. Um, but I mean, location wise, fine. I thought that was really spooky, and the obviously went out and picked a good location. The house is probably a set, but the werewolves design is one of my favorites.
I
For me, that is the werewolf. That's a werewolf.
I really like the design of these werewolves. I think they're very intimidating, and I like the way they're really tall, looking down over you, and they're really lean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're pretty frightening. There was, I heard there was some CGI used in this movie, but they wanted to use it very sparingly, and mostly use bodysuits and animatronics. And I'm glad they did. I think at the time they were saying they felt CGI was being overused, and they didn't want. I think they didn't want it to kind of age poorly, that kind of way.
yeah. Well, I think recent movies have proved that CGI werewolves are not good at all, and that includes the recent Wolfman, the recent Werewolves, which I was so looking forward to. And it was, though I know there was some practical effects in the Werewolves movie, but there was CGI, and you can tell. There's another movie, a werewolf one called Werewolf: The Beast Among Us. Is another one people haven't heard of, but it's a cracking wee gem of a movie. And again, they use CGI in that one. It's not too bad CGI wise, but I think CGI. I think for a werewolf, and maybe I'm just old fashioned, but you got to do the American Werewolf. You got to do the Howling. The practical effects for me work best, and I really do think in this one the practical effects sell the movie, or else it would have just been one of them no cheap the DVD movies. I
Yeah,
mean, if you think of that shot where Sarge is lying on the bed and the werewolf steps through the window,
yeah,
you're sort of looking at it going, the whole shape of it, you're going, is that a man in a suit? And you can't quite figure out because of
yeah,
the legs and everything. It's
yeah.
sort of like
The
like the
proportions.
mummies from Doctor Who. Yeah, the proportions are wrong. So I think that sells it. And I'm really glad they went the practical effects animatronic sort of side of it.
Yeah.
I actually have seen the American Werewolf in London, Wolf in a record shop in London. That's where it is. I don't know where it's still there because it was go back about 30 years when Alien War opened in London. So we called into this record shop. My friend was taking me about, and the American Werewolf was animatronic, plugged to a gate. So when you walked in, it automatically rolls up over the gate to scare the life out of you.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
yeah, and it looked really well. Actually, no, in real life, you sort of parts of it in the movie, I don't think it looks that well, but when you see it in real life, it's actually a lot of really detailed work went into it. So I do like the werewolves, but the ones in this one, yeah, are exactly. I know we talked about the fairy tale werewolf for Silver Bullet, but Dog Soldier I think fits it more because it's more predatory. It's the soldiers, it's aliens, really, isn't it? The Marines versus the werewolves.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think they do a fantastic job with the whole thing, and like we were saying about Silver Bullet, a low a low budget can lead to some very creative shots, which this has quite a bit of.
Mm.
For a good part of the movie, the werewolves are not in full view, um, which is a which was a good idea because they do some really creative things. So the movie, the very opening of the movie, there's a couple camping in the woods, and when they go into their tent to kind of settle down for the night or whatever,
So
um,
whatever, but
you see the zip of the tent slowly being pulled down, and then
Mm.
the woman's legs get grabbed and she's struggling, and it's a great opening. I like it quite a bit, and
Do you want a movie tidbit for that?
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the guy that plays the guy, which that doesn't make sense. One,
The guy that
um,
plays the guy.
is an actor called Craig Conway. I think he used to be a footballer, but I'm not sure on that point. But he's actually the lead in Doomsday, the one about the virus that's devastated the UK. The Kate Beckinsale's in, I think.
Ah,
And he's the cannibalistic. Glasgow, Scotland is now a massive walled place, so he's the cannibalistic leader called Saul, who
yeah,
wants to he will eat you. He does some crazy things in that one, especially to Sean Pertwee. But he's just mad, and you sort of look at this little scene, and you
yeah,
don't. It's I know he's an actor, but you sort of think, "Oh, there's so." And you don't. I didn't realize it was him till I watched Doomsday, and I went, "I know his face from somewhere."
yeah,
So that's a wee movie tidbit for you. So he
yeah,
didn't last very long, but it was worth it because he got into Doomsday in a really, really good role.
yeah. I actually quite like the entire cast of this movie. I think it's well cast.
Hmm.
Do you have a list of the cast there? Do you?
I do, yeah. You have Sean Pertwee, who's Sarge. You have Kevin McKidd, who's Cooper, who went on to Grey's Anatomy.
Ah,
Emma Cleesby is Megan. I mean, on to Roman's Well, I think, first name Grey's Anatomy. You have the great Liam Cunningham, born and bred, as Evil Ryan, who actually was our villain of the week on the Home Warriors website a couple of weeks ago.
yep. Go.
Craig Conway, as we said. Uh, Darren Moffat as Spoon. Oh, I just think he's great. And he was also in Doctor Who, The Time of Angels two-parter as a soldier again. He's been in loads of stuff. Chris Robson as Joe. Again, these are all British actors in that sort of circle. So it's like there's a pool of British actors that they all sort of were. There's loads of films we haven't seen because they do loads of shorts and stuff. And I got that from Sean Pertwee himself, just to let you know. Um,
Nice.
Leslie Simpson is Terry. They're all the soldiers. Of course, you got Sam the dog, which is Vilrix Acer. What a
Ah,
name for a dog.
yeah, yeah. Nice.
What happened to Rover?
He was one of the best characters in it.
Yeah, he was
He
good.
actually
But
he
it is a
was
good week cast, as you say.
he was the dog was in actually one of the funniest scenes, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so it's a good cast, and I one of the things I really like about this movie is the character writing and the banter between the soldiers. I think it's really well done, and a lot of it comes
Mm,
across as very natural.
yeah.
Um, what do you
You
think about the interplay between the soldiers?
you believe that they're comrades.
Yeah,
You believe Sean Pertwee's the leader. Um, but
he's
when
fantastic in the leader role. I think.
Sean Pertwee.
He,
Do you know what? I am a huge Sean Pertwee fan, to be honest. Um, Partly in connection with his dad, who was Doctor Who, the third Doctor, John Pertwee, and Marshall
ah,
Cummings. But Sean, oh yeah,
Oh, I can
Oh
see it
yeah,
now.
what?
I can see it now. Yeah.
He's the double of his dad, the absolute
Yeah.
spit of him. And I swear he was in my bucket list for centuries.
Yeah.
Um,
And just
I
as a
never
side
got to meet.
note,
Yeah,
I used to love Wurzel Gummidge.
so do I. He's popping up on the reels on Instagram for some reason. The old one.
No way.
Love John Pertwee. He was one of my favorite people. Never got to meet him, as I said, but I always wanted to meet his son because Sean has done his own career and like Dog Soldiers is part of it.
Yeah.
Doomsday. At one point, he was the cameo in loads of British movies, like Heil. He was the train driver. Was killed by more werewolves in Heil, and he looked like his dad in that one specifically because his dad dressed up and talked to him as a milkman. You'll need to see it to believe it, but he's a spit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cold Fate, Gotham. I think
Yeah.
he is the perfect Alfred,
He was great.
100%.
He was great in that role. Yeah.
He
I
was
think he's
great.
great in whatever he does. I think he's a really, really good
Yeah,
actor.
and there's just something so down to earth to him. We met him at Northern Ireland Comic Con a couple of years ago. Actually, the year before I lost the leg. And my heart was pounding. Sometimes I get a little celebrity struck a lot.
Right.
Um, because that season's coming up again with Dublin Comic Con
Do you know
then
what? I've
time.
never
But
been starstruck myself. It just never
oh,
happened.
it depends who it is.
Yeah.
But Sean's one of them. I think it was that connection because I do like his work, and he's made such a good career. Um, but I was talking away, and I got him to sign the issue of Batman where Alfred was murdered by Bane, and he signed it in silver at the front, and he was just.
That's awesome.
I've sent you the photo. I just if you can airbrush my stomach out because it was shortly after transplant. Um, but he was so nice, and he's just so down to earth, and he was sort of like the Gotham actors were there, so he's like, "This is my Gotham colleagues," and it wasn't about him; it was about everybody. And then him and my wife decided to get. My wife's not a celebrity person, and she decided. I'm starting like the fanboy, and them two gets talking about how the Econ Centre is what you call it out in Lisburn is actually the site of an old famous prison in Northern Ireland that was people were sent to, and them two just got stuck into the conversation. I was left standing.
You were
I
the
go,
third wheel.
I go, excuse me. I'm a fan of his, but it was just lovely. But it was lovely to see, because like she knew him from Cold Feet and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was that level of listening to people and talking to people, and he is a legend. There's no two
Yeah.
ways about it. He is a legend.
That's fantastic. Uh,
Yeah.
this
I'm smiling just thinking about it.
smiling just thinking about him.
Smiling
Do you
thinking
think
about it.
about him on those lonely nights?
No, not that lonely. Because I met Liam Cunningham, who was Ryan.
Hmm.
Oh, I would hear that story. At the Dublin premiere of The Force Awakens, though all those years ago, there was a big giant lightsaber in the middle of Dublin. And you would see, because I don't really watch RTE TV, all these celebrities were turning up, and I hadn't a clue who any of them were, not one.
Not one.
So, but you'd probably know who they were. And next thing we're standing, and Liam Cunningham walks in, and me and my mate were standing like going, "We have to get a picture with Liam Cunningham.
Yeah.
We have to get a picture with Liam Cunningham. If we can get a signature, even better. But we'll have to get the photo." So he's being interviewed on. I was a few days later. I was sitting at home, and somebody says, "You should see this video." And I says, "Well, send me it." Um, he's being interviewed by RTE, I think, or one of those sort of like magazine programs. And there's me and my mate in the background hovering like two stalkers, waiting for him because that's what we're doing. Right, as soon as he stops talking, we'll grab him, grab the photo and everything. And there's us two in all our glory, and didn't even realize we were being filmed at the time. So we look really bad as two stalkers, but we got our photo with him, and he's so nice. We didn't
Brilliant.
get the autograph, but he's so nice. So that's my another reason why I love Dog Soldiers, because I got to meet them, and they didn't disappoint
Yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
at all.
So there's another thing about that opening scene to remember is that there is a little silver blade that will be important later on. So when you're watching the movie, log that in your brain.
Yeah, yeah,
This movie has like usually I don't like jump scares and that kind of thing, but this one has one that it sets up really well, and
I love jump scare.
I quite like it. Yeah, we'll go through
Is
it.
does something fall out of the sky?
Well, you'll just have to listen and find out. So it starts off with Sergeant Wells telling a story. Actually, before I do that, I thought it was funny. His name's H.G. Wells.
I never even caught that on.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. Little thing. So, well, they're all sitting around a campfire in the middle of their training exercise, and it's dark, and they've got the fire going. And Wells starts telling a very serious story about where one of his mates being blown up by what was it? It was an anti-tank mine or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in
Um,
Afghanistan or something, I think.
yeah, and it's a really serious and sad story, and very depressing and all this. So one of the soldiers after this tries to lighten the mood by telling a joke. So you have this big build up with Wells' story, and then we think we're going to come down into a more humorous bit to kind of break the tension and lighten things up a bit. And then just as that's happening, a big I think it was a cow's body or something just
I think.
falls right down on top of the
Yeah,
camp, and they
yeah.
all it scares the shit out of the lot of them, and I think they start firing their
Freaking. Yeah,
not their what they're like they don't have live rounds because it's a training
no,
exercise. But
yeah.
I thought that was done so well, and the first time it happened, I jumped out of my fucking skin.
Yeah, you don't expect. And funny enough, I was thinking about that last night, um, and sort of thinking, what animal could you have used there really? But a cow, a sheep wouldn't have had the same effect.
Yeah,
A deer maybe, with the antlers, because he's just talked about the devil, saving the skin, the piece of skin that's left for the devil's tattoo. Maybe a deer, but I think the cow makes people laugh as well
yeah.
because it's almost like here's Burger King coming.
But
But it's a big animal, a cow as well. You sort of think what could make a cow something that size, and it is a powerful animal because I get kicked by a cow once, which wasn't pleasant. I just swear to God,
was he
true story.
protecting
Uh,
Sean Pertwee?
no, I know what he was doing. All I do was walking behind him. My dad was herding the cows. I come from a farming background. When my granny had a farm and my granddad. And we were just herding the cows in. The cow just was walking and then just flicked its leg out and caught me on the shin.
Oh
I
my
was only
god!
about seven or eight at the time, and I went down like a
I'd
bag of
imagine
potatoes.
that could have been very
Oh,
disastrous.
yeah, but it didn't break anything, strange enough,
That is
for
strange.
some reason.
Maybe it was just like a warning shot.
Yeah, well, it worked. I didn't follow it any further, but like as I was carried into my granny's, oh, my leg.
But before we kind of see all the team together, as they will be for the rest of the movie. Before that, we see Cooper in a training exercise with Ryan, um,
Mm,
and at the what was it? Cooper has to evade them for a certain amount of time,
yeah.
and when they finally catch him, Ryan orders him to shoot a dog, and Cooper refuses to do it, and Ryan says something like, "I don't need men with a conscience" or something like that. I need men who will just follow orders, basically. And
Yeah.
um, Cooper is like, "There's just no reason to shoot this dog. I'm not going to do it." And then Ryan takes a gun and shoots the dog, and then Cooper ends up punching him for being a prick. Um, so that's kind of setting up Cooper's character a little bit. That moment will be called back to later on. So it's
Yeah.
just setting up, who Cooper is. Um,
And setting up the dynamic between him and Ryan
yeah,
for later on as well, because
yeah.
Ryan's not a nice man.
Ryan is not a nice dude at all, and
No.
I hate seeing animals getting hurt in movies. Like I know, like the actual dog isn't getting hurt, but shooting the poor dog, what a scumbag. Um, And then we
Well, I was sort of thinking Cujo.
Cujo,
Have you
yeah.
seen Cujo? Yeah, you could shoot that dog. Definitely, you could shoot that dog or a big werewolf or something. But yeah, you don't. We wouldn't like a wee chihuahua or a poodle or something,
No.
or my wee dog Finn, my wee
Yeah.
golden retriever.
Yeah.
You don't like. But right, that just shows Ryan has no conscience and how almost Terminator like he is
Yeah.
in his men, and what he wants out of his men is just total without question. Just do as you're told,
Yeah.
regardless of the target.
Follow orders without question.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so um Ryan and him obviously have that big conflict, and then a little bit later we cut to Cooper's with the group who we'll be with for the rest of the movie, and they
Mm.
have, as we said before, they have a great rapport. There's lots of banter back and forth. They um slag each other off a lot in a really playful way. Some of the insults are very
Yeah,
funny. And
yeah.
they're on a training exercise, and one of them's kind of more stressed about the football results and all this kind of
Poor
thing.
Joe.
And then they come across, in that exercise, they come across Sergeant. Is he a sergeant? Ryan? What is he?
Captain Ryan.
Captain Ryan. That's the one. Um, they come across him, and he's the only survivor of his team because something really bad obviously happened, and he's very badly wounded. And they see that he has like there's lots of tranquilizer guns and nets and stuff like that. So they grab Ryan, and then there's the werewolf attack that happens. So they kind of escape because the what's her name again? It's
Megan.
Megan. Megan comes across them in her jeep, and she ends up rescuing them, and she brings them to a secluded farmhouse where they kind of hold up, because there's lots of nasty werewolves about, and then we get some information about. So a little bit into the movie, we'll find out that Maggie knows that
Mm.
these are werewolves, and she convinces them that these are lichens and all this kind of stuff. And she says to your man, like, if these are real, what else do you think is real?
I know. Yeah. It
um,
opens up. It opens up an interesting aspect for that because, as you know, Ryan is there. Or Sergeant Cooper's team are there as bait to lure out for the werewolves,
yeah,
while Ryan's team are there to capture the werewolves. So there's an interesting thing there is the military have decided to weaponize werewolves, and how did they find out about the werewolves and stuff like that? So there's a whole world that
yeah,
we haven't seen.
yeah.
What
So we will find out later that Ryan and his team were using Cooper's team as bait for a werewolf because they wanted to capture it, and it's always some military application with these movies, isn't it?
oh I know, isn't it always?
And then it all went tits up because they were expecting one werewolf, but there was more than one, and
Yeah.
they took the team apart, leaving only Ryan to survive. But yeah, you're right. They were being used as bait for the werewolves. So
Mm.
another typical like, oh, the team are expendable kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's what makes them mad. But I mean, remember through the initial before Megan grabs him, and I thought at the time that's a bit of a coincidence. She happened to be driving through, and it
Yeah,
never registered with me about what she really was. But
we'll
you
find out
lose
at the
Bruce.
end.
Yeah, we lose Bruce, who runs into a tree, and a branch goes through his chest,
Oh
and
yeah,
then Sarge.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
He's
and
he's
then
running away from the werewolf, and he just runs right into a
yeah.
branch that impales
Straight
him.
into it. I think that would be an all. He's got the easiest death of them all, but I think it's a horrible one
Yeah,
just for that. And then obviously Sarge, Sean Pertwee's character, is sliced open, so he's been infected by a werewolf there in the end. So that's all built
Y-
into what happens in the house
yeah.
then.
So before Maggie brings him to the house,
Megan.
Megan, I have her name down as Maggie
Hey, do
for
you know
some.
what it is? This is remember last week with the blob, and it was Kevin and Brian.
Yeah.
I was getting. Kevin went, no, he didn't. It was Brian. Or no, it wasn't Brian. What do you call him? Or whatever.
Yeah, listen, it happens. At our age, we're lucky we can remember our own names.
Yeah, yeah. All right, you're lucky I get up dressed in the morning.
But Yeah, before Megan comes along and saves them in her jeep, Ryan had an encounter, or sorry, Wells had an encounter with a werewolf, and he got slashed across the stomach, and his guts are hanging out, and it looks all pretty
Mm.
gruesome. And they bring him back to the place, and they try and
The
give
house.
him medical attention and all that. And there's a bit that it makes me wince. It's disgusting, but it's also really funny at the same time, where he's on the ground and his guts are hanging out, and the dog starts chewing on his
Yeah.
intestines, and I'm like, oh my god, the it
I'm
just
not a big fan of intestines hanging out, to be honest.
no, I rather them on the inside myself.
Even back in Day of the Dead, when Bud the zombie sits up on the table and leans over and his entire stomach falls out. Blah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Um.
Not a fan of them.
So one thing, so I was saying earlier how they were setting up Cooper's character with the dog, where he refused an order, and it's the same thing here. So, Wells's character is commanding him to just leave him be because he thinks he's pretty fucked, basically. And I think Cooper says something like, "You can shove your orders up your arse," because he's gonna save him. So it
Yeah,
shows that Cooper will refuse a command if it means doing the right thing. So that's who Cooper is,
he has a conscience, and he's had so many failed relationships as well with women. That
right?
is trusted women isn't there either, which comes into play as well.
Yeah.
God love him. He's not having a good day really at the end of the day.
No. So they're holed up in this little secluded house in the middle of nowhere, and at one point the lights go off, and we find out that the werewolves have cut off the lights, because they can see well in the dark, and they know. I think Megan says that they know you're afraid of the dark. So
Mm.
these wolves they're not just mindless; they're thinking it out a little bit, and then they attack the house, and that's when one of the soldiers gets taken. I can't remember which one. Is is it
It wasn't
Bruce?
Bruce. It was Terry. Terry gets taken, I think.
Yeah,
He gets pulled through the window, wasn't it?
one of them gets pulled through the window.
Aye, that's
Um,
Terry.
yeah, and
Again, lovely, lovely, lovely Terry, ordinary bloke. I think it's the fact they're so ordinary that makes the tragedy of it even worse.
yeah,
Because they're not super soldiers, they're not commandos like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that. Those are just ordinary men
yeah,
out doing the job
and they're
for reserves for the weekend.
yeah, and they're terrified when all this kicks off. Like one of them's
Yeah,
like panicking a little bit, and Cooper's trying to see if he's okay, and I think your man responds, to me, I'm craving a kebab.
yeah,
I thought that was just really funny, but yeah, they're not like they're not immune to fear. They're not super soldiers.
yeah,
They're lads who are really scared in this situation,
yeah.
and that just really adds to the movie. Um, and then a little bit later, we find out that Megan. So I'm just gonna scribble her name out and write Megan, so I don't keep saying Maggie.
I just say you're a woman.
Well, she is the only woman in it, I guess.
You're a woman.
So your woman, Megan. It turns out that she knows Ryan. That they were using her as an expert to kind of find out more about the wolves when they were going on the hunt for them or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was employed by the Evans to. She knew full well that Sarge's team were as bait, and she's supposedly an expert in werewolves. More so later on in the movie when you find out the secret.
Yeah,
So she was working with Ryan to get in. So and that's your bit where you go, oh, so it wasn't a coincidence. So was she out looking for Ryan? Had he contacted her and said he was hurt? And was there coming across the Sarge's team a pure chance thing?
yeah. The jeep that they used to get there ends up being blown up. Well, first of all, they find out that the werewolves have cut the engine. They've kind of ripped it up, so the jeep is now pretty useless. So Cooper shoots at it and blows it up to get the werewolves to back off. So
Mm.
they're in this place with no vehicle. Well, we'll find out that there is a little bit, but so they're in a pretty bad situation. But later we'll find out that there's a Land Rover in the shed, and I think it's Spoon who draws away the werewolves, and then one of the other soldiers hot
Joe.
wires the Jeep. And then we
Yeah,
get a
all Joe
gruesome.
wants is to see his football.
Say again?
All Joe wants is to go home and watch the football.
Yeah, that's all he wants. He's got
And
simple
that's it.
pleasures.
Yeah,
Just wants to watch the footy. And then when he gets into the Jeep and the lights come on, we get a gruesome scene of the soldier that was taken, and it's in the grips of a werewolf, and the werewolf just fucking rips its head off and throws it at your
yeah,
man.
yeah,
So that was pretty cool looking, and we get you know a little glimpse of the werewolf and its hand and the way it moves and stuff. It's just really well done, I think.
yeah. I mean, the werewolf is just being evil. I can't even think of the word there. He's just being malicious
Kind of
by throwing the head. Yeah, kind of
taunting.
taunting.
Yeah,
So they're not mindless. They know exactly what they're doing, and it's not. You can't even say that they're just obeying their nature, because that's not that's not normal behavior for a human. Never mind a werewolf. Just to rip a head off and throw it at somebody, your friend, who and now you're about to die as well. It's really sadistic.
yeah. He wants them to be afraid,
Yeah, yeah.
but the soldier gets away with the Jeep, but then it turns out he doesn't because there's a werewolf. Was it? Yeah, there was a werewolf in the back seat, wasn't that it?
In the back seat. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that old urban legend. There's somebody in the back seat. Only this
yeah,
time it was it's a
yeah,
werewolf.
yeah,
But again, it's they planned it. They know exactly what the soldiers are going to go for, so they put themselves in the places where they can pick them off one by one.
yeah,
Didn't they have when Spoon run out to distract them? Didn't they have the green glow, that sort of point of view from the werewolves? Was it a
yeah.
green
Uh,
night vision sort of thing?
it's kind of like black and white, is it? It's kind of
Is it black and white? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it
yeah,
is black and white. You're right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we
There's
get
that
some
night,
POV
yeah,
shots from the werewolves.
from us, which were really nice and made a difference. And then when they finally do really, when they storm the house and Sarge is in the bed and his guts have been glued back together, um, that whole scene where they're coming through the window up the stairs, as I said earlier on, it's just so well done,
Yeah, it is
so well done.
very well
It's
done.
there's something you can't you look at it and you can't really picture a person in that suit. So
Yeah,
there's something just not right with it.
yeah, yeah,
And the shape
um,
of the heads, I think even the shape, almost like lions' heads and manes. Um,
yeah.
a bit of a shade of that, but I mean, the overall design of the werewolves works so well,
Oh, it's one of
no
my
matter what
favorite.
team they're in.
It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite werewolf designs for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I really have a problem with. Do you like? Have you ever watched the Vampire Diaries?
I haven't.
It's brilliant, I have to say. But
Awesome.
um, their werewolves are huskies with like silver glinty eyes, and I get so disappointed. I thought, oh, we're going to get werewolves because you get vampires and werewolves and everything else, but the werewolf's a dog with contact lenses. I hate that. I
Yeah,
like to see a good werewolf, something that's going to scare the life out of you.
yeah, yeah. Like I think at their best, werewolves are fucking terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
When I
It's
was a
it was
kid,
one bite,
they
one scratch.
when I was a kid, they would have scared me more than vampires. Not that vampires weren't
Um,
scary. I found like both were scary, but I always found werewolves more terrifying.
yeah, I find that with American Werewolf in London. Those dream sequences in the forest,
Yeah,
and he sees himself lying on the bed, and he opens those eyes and the blue skin. That put me in my head. Probably was shades of Salem's Lot,
yeah,
scaring the life out of me. But yeah, the world is something about being bitten by a werewolf, being losing self control,
yeah,
and just waking up somewhere the next morning
yeah.
completely naked and not knowing where you are, and then it's sort of like, what
Oh
have
no,
I done?
I thought you called that a Tuesday.
No, I used to call it Saturday. I've been to Drogheda and saying no.
I've been suspicious that you're a
Um,
werewolf.
well, I'm hairy enough, I have to say. I am hairy enough. I
um,
gave up even years ago because it kept going back thicker and thicker. So.
um, then we see a little bit later, we see that because Ryan was bitten and scratched and he survived the attack, that he transforms into a werewolf, and then
Yeah.
a fight breaks out, and Ryan ends up fleeing in werewolf form. He he got, I think they stabbed him with something, so he runs off with something embedded into him, and I think that's so that we as an audience know that that's Ryan later on
Yeah.
for the final
Yeah.
kind of conflict. It's just a way of letting us know this is Ryan. Like,
Stick of wood or something was there, I think.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they, kind of suss that the pack of werewolves is probably the former family of this house.
Yeah. Which Megan knew all along.
Yeah,
And all she wanted was to escape into the real world as a werewolf. And that's where Cooper thing about not she's I told you were right not to trust women or something. I goes, oh, here we go again. But yeah, that shot of her as she's turning and the two wolves come up and flank her in the car in the hallway.
yeah.
It's lovely. That's just lovely. I would love that as a picture signed, if you know what I mean.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean.
that's just a great shot, and also the lighting and everything. You just terrifying werewolves.
Yeah,
Because mostly what you see is a silhouette, really, and
yeah,
she's not the mother figure, but could be the mother figure. But as you find out, she came to investigate and then being bitten and becoming part of the pack.
yeah. So just before that, we find out that Wells is starting to turn because of his
Mm,
wound. So they decide to take the fight to the wolves, and
yeah,
they end up using the Land Rover to blow up a nearby shed that they believe is the werewolves' lair. Um, and then a little bit after that, we see that Megan is with the wolves. She's one of them. And then when she's in the middle of transforming, they shoot her in the head.
yeah.
So she's kind of dealt with pretty quickly. um,
Well, shouldn't have been telling lies.
there you
And
go.
that's our health and safety video for this week,
Yeah,
kids.
don't
Don't
tell
tell
lies.
lies.
Don't tell lies to people with guns.
Yeah, but especially if your friends are werewolves, because it doesn't end well.
Yeah, if your friends are werewolves, try and keep that to yourself.
Yeah, don't say nothing. You're
um,
living in the middle of nowhere for a reason. Put it like that.
yeah, they're not werewolves aren't the most social beings.
No, no.
So yeah, then a fight with the werewolves breaks out in a very frantic scene. It's it's cut very frantically and it's all chaotic and stuff. And then a little bit later, we find out that uh, the soldier whose nickname is Spoon got torn to pieces basically, and we get that line from Wells because someone says, "Where's Spoon?" and he goes, "There is no spoon." we
Yeah.
we used to
But
love
I mean,
that.
Spoon's death is really well done. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, just sitting there thinking about it, I can see it in my head, and he's fighting in the kitchen and throwing everything at the werewolf and everything else, and gets a frying pan, starts hitting it with a frying pan. It's like, what? And then he's up against one. He's one of the ones you don't want to die. He says, "Don't
yeah,
let him die." He goes, "I hope I give you the shits." And he spits, and then he's dead. But his death is so well done because at the same time as he's doing that, Sarge and Cooper are up the stairs, and Cooper's going, "Where are you?" And Sarge goes, "I'm in the cozy. I'm in the cozy."
and for people who
There's
don't
nothing in
know,
my toilet if a werewolf tried to get in that I could use as a weapon. There's probably the toilet roll, and that's about it.
just chuck
Tube
some
of toothpaste.
chuck some toilet roll at a werewolf if he breaks in.
Yeah, that'll do it. Bite the straw.
Squirt some toothpaste in his eye.
Yeah,
Do you not have a
it's
plunger or
terrifying.
anything?
No, don't have a plunger.
Oh,
No, I don't like
to be honest, I don't like your odds with or without a
plungers.
plunger
So maybe,
anyways.
but it no, we're very good in our house. We don't need plungers. Our toilet works so well. Where it's like we're all pears and bananas. But the fight segment's so good, and they're clawing at the door of the bathroom, and then Cooper bursts in through the wall. It's just it's so frantic and funny, even
Yeah,
though it's terrifying.
yeah.
it's
That
so funny at the same time.
that's another thing. This is another good example of balancing humor and horror because I
Mm,
like the balance in this movie. I don't think the comedy ruins the horror
no, not at
like
all.
in some movies.
Compliments it, I think.
Yeah, well, it just all seems like just real people and what they would say and what they would do, you know?
Well, it's that old thing about the psychology part of it, where you scare someone and the first thing they do is give a nervous laugh. So,
Yeah.
so fear and comedy are actually work hand in hand very, very closely. There's not that much of a fine line between it. It's
Yeah.
like you go to a ghost train, or you do one of them. We did the haunted thing at Halloween where there was zombies coming out with chainsaws, and I had a leg at that point, and it was just ironic that the following year the zombie went to cut my leg off, and then a year later it actually happened.
Oh my
So
God.
it's like I thought, Jesus, no, this is he put this gun on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's stuff you laugh, and but there's also that tension. You go, ooh, sort of. Am I gonna
Yeah.
get out of this?
And as we said, like the werewolves are pretty bloody intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really. See, if you had it just had men in suits and furry suits, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't have been as intense because these things look supernatural. They're not like wolves. Wolves. It's almost like, as I said, lions
Mm.
crossed with wolves, with these slender man bodies.
Yeah.
So they're not definitely not natural of where they are, but it's again it's that open sort of backstory. It's like, how did they know? Where did they come from? And as you said, is somebody out looking vampires in another part of the world, sort of thing, or what monster did they want next?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole kind of world there you could explore.
Yeah, yeah. I can see now where they could possibly do a sequel, but I'm glad they didn't. It almost happened, but it didn't. I'm glad it didn't happen.
Was it going
And
to be
funny enough,
called it was going to be called Fresh Meat? Is that one?
Fresh Meat, yeah, that's right. It was supposed to, it was either going to be Cooper, or they were going to bring a brand new team in, because they thought, well, it's not going to really work with Cooper the second time because he's been through it. It's almost like Predator. Arnie's not in the second one. Stanley has it's moves to somebody else. But I'm sort of glad they didn't. Because funny, just to go back to Sean Purdy, when we met him, we were talking about dog soldiers. It was the first thing we talked about. I says, "Do you know I've searched everywhere? There's no action figures. There's no comic books, because everything I ever get in comic book side. Um, there's no merchandise bar the Blu-ray, the DVD." And he just pointed to the photos on this desk. Says, "There's stuff there." I said, "But you know what I mean?" I says, I would could have got a figure signed, or a comic book got issue 1 signed, but there's no merchandise really associated with um the dog soldiers at all,
Yeah.
or
Which
the
is a
TV.
shame like
It's really bizarre.
some of the artwork for the movie, some of the posters and stuff look really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And even if you had done the werewolf figures,
Oh yeah.
there is there. I was in Forbidden Planet the other day, and there's all sorts there, but there's no dog soldiers. Strangely enough.
I would have one of those figures on my shelf for sure.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, so Wells is he knows he's going to transform into a wolf, so he lets Cooper escape and then he ends up blowing the place up. And
Yeah.
then we have after that we have the final encounter with Cooper and Werewolf Ryan. And there's a line when he sees him, he goes, "Have you tried licking your own balls yet?"
No balls yet. Yeah.
Just like what you were saying about using humor in a very grim situation, and
Yeah.
I think it works really well there. And that line got me. It's really funny. And then they have their final showdown, and Cooper ends up using the blade from the very first scene, the little silver little dagger thing, which I think was presented to your man at the start for. Do you remember why? It was like,
No, actually.
yeah, it was like a they awarded him it or something like that.
Oh, did they award him it because he'd beat them? They weren't be able to find him, so he actually was so close to getting in, but to give him this first, and then the dog shooting the dog was a backup, but he never gave it back. If you know what I mean,
Yeah,
he kept the blade. I don't know. I can't remember.
yeah, yeah.
No, that was
it was the guy who was attacked in the tent at the very start of the
on
movie.
the tent. I don't know.
Yeah, In any case, he uses that to finish off Ryan because it's made of pure silver. And then Ryan and the doggo are the sole survivors of dog soldiers.
Have we just found a plot hole in Dog Soldiers
I
with a
don't
silver blade?
know,
How did he get from the tent to the house?
because I think the werewolves killed them, or at least turned one of them, and they brought all the stuff back to their lair.
Oh, I right now covering up the evidence. Yeah,
Maybe something
yeah,
like that. I think it's reasonable that it does pan out that way. But yeah, maybe you have some questions about.
yeah. It's probably a bit like Wrong Turn. You know, the one with the cannibals
Yeah,
in the forests. Like they've all the people that they've murdered. They've got their possessions, their cars, everything, so that nobody can find anything to leading it back to their existence. It's probably that. Yeah, you're probably. It was probably Megan did it. You know,
maybe. I'm
it's
not
probably
sure
her.
why they'd want silver anywhere near them, but who knows?
But I was just thinking that. But if Megan is in human form, and those werewolves are also in human form as well at some point. So that was her new adopted family, because you seen from the photographs on the fireplace, and she was the one that took the photograph. So they were human
Yeah.
at some point. So they're obviously at you right. We haven't found a plot hole, folks. We've solved the mystery. They've
myth,
cleared up the crap afterwards.
myth,
That's what it is.
myth busted.
Miss Boston.
I heard apparently Jason Statham at some point was in line to be in this movie, but it didn't pan out. That would have been interesting.
I'm glad he wasn't.
Yeah, I'm glad they went the way they did with the casting.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
all really good the way it is.
If you ever had a cast of ordinary Joe blogs, that's it. Because Kevin McKidd didn't really. He said he went on to Rome and then Grey's Anatomy after that. At that point, he was. Oh God, I can't remember what it was that he was in.
Yeah,
Um, what the
2000.
one
This released in
two thousand
2002.
and two.
How big would Statham have been back then? Would he have been a big name at that point?
He's in his 50s. And this is
What year was
2025.
Lock Stock?
Hold on, that's my wee friend Google. Is that his first film?
I think it was, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was.
1998.
Yeah.
1998 was Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
There you go.
Yeah, Richie.
Another movie I want to rewatch sometime soon.
I don't think I've watched it.
Ah, I remember loving it. It's been a while, and do you know the way you love something and you watch it again, you're like, it goes down in your estimation. But I'm pretty sure it's a really good movie. Another thing I heard is that some of the corpses in the basement were were created for Event Horizon and ended up in this or something like that.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's a nice little interesting fact that I
We
heard.
love wee facts.
I like wee
We love
facts
wee
about
facts.
movies. I love little bits of movie trivia, and some of them you don't always know how true they are, but it's always fun to think about anyway. So, Dog Soldiers is another very very good werewolf movie. It's action packed. It's funny. The banter between the Marines is great. The whole thing I think is just really well put together for the budget that they had.
Yeah, it's believable.
Yeah, and when I rewatched it again, I forgot how engrossing the dialogue is. I just think the dialogues and back and forths are just they really wrote
Yeah,
it in.
because
So,
what you're looking at here is really a base under siege movie. Like it's the stalwart of Doctor Who for 60 odd years now. It's the base under siege, and the people it's almost like if you look at Aliens, where, oh God, what was his name? He died. Well, they all died, but he died in real life. Bill Paxton,
yeah,
his wasn't Hicks,
Hudson.
Hudson. If you look at Hudson's character, it's sort of like that. It's they're big Marines under pressure, but these guys don't crack like that. They're more all they want to do is get home.
Yeah.
Because they're faced with something that just doesn't even make sense. I'd love to have seen the aftermath where Cooper confronts the authorities and know who deliberately let those people be killed just to weaponize this creature
Yeah.
that is out there. But then that would be a whole different movie and probably wouldn't have the same
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah. It
But
does it in the
I think
movie. It takes them a while to come around to the idea that they're werewolves because I think Cooper says, "I'm still not ruling out that they're just escaped inmates that haven't shaved or cut their fingernails in a long time."
yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I just think it.
Which is what you would think, like in that situation.
Yeah, well, what else would you think? They're like, surely they're not
Yeah.
actual fucking werewolves, you know?
Do you know what? I'm just sitting here thinking. Actually watched something the other night, and I can't remember what it is. But the same thing. It was the same sort of reaction the characters had to. No, it couldn't really be an alien or space vampire or something. It has to be people. Oh, it was wrong turn.
Mm,
It was wrong turn. They were thinking, oh, it's just some hillbillies up the mountains, and they don't realize that these are inbred mutant cannibals
yeah,
because it's not. You don't walk out in the forest and expect to see that. Or if somebody sees Bigfoot, their mind can't cope with it. So it's sort of like it's a bear. It must be a bear, or it must be a human
you try
who
and
hasn't long hair. Do you know what I mean?
you try
It's
and
how,
rationalize it somehow.
yeah, because that's your first. Because you so um that's not real. But I mean, anybody just going on the subject of Bigfoot who has seen it have their lives and their minds changed forever
Mm,
because one guy said it stepped out of the pages of myth into reality. And he says, I haven't been the same since. There's a lot of people with PTSD and stuff over it. And even not just Bigfoot, but situations that they didn't expect to come up against, even out in the sea, like the giant octopuses and stuff and giant squids.
yeah,
They're just legends, but all of a sudden they're right there in front of you. So it's how you deal with that
yeah,
mental way.
yeah, absolutely. The director of this, Neil Marshall, also directed The Descent, which is another fantastic horror movie.
Do you think so? I didn't like that.
Oh, The Descent is great. What are you talking about?
Not maybe they should have descended it further.
No.
I wasn't fussed.
See, this
It's
is
them creatures under the ground, isn't it?
yeah. See, even really good writers like Owen have a bad take every now and then.
No, no, Owen's right. Always. There's no way I get the t-shirt.
The Descent is great.
No, and there's a descent too, isn't there?
That's it wouldn't be as good as the first one.
Well, that wouldn't be hard.
That's
But they
don't.
Neil Marshall did another Alien movie. Ah, I can't remember what it is. He did one as the last year, the year before. It didn't really do much. And it was Dog Soldiers with Aliens.
Ah,
But I'll get the name of it and I'll send it across to you after the podcast.
yeah.
But it was all right. It wasn't amazing, but it was the
Um,
same premise sort of thing as Dog Soldiers.
Now, The Descent. Are you sure you're thinking of the same movie as I am?
Yeah, and then all women, an all woman team go underground
Yeah.
and they meet all these like baldy things.
To me, this baldy. Listen, when you pitch it
Well,
like that, you're not making it sound very good.
maybe because it's not. But is that what it is? They're like underground
Yeah, they go
monsters.
cave. They
And
go
yeah,
cave diving, and
yeah, I don't understand why it does that. That's no. See these ones go, yes, this crack in the rock, 20 feet or 20 miles below the surface of the world. I'm going to squeeze through this wee 2 foot space.
yeah,
Is there something wrong with your head? Get home. No,
yeah.
open
That's
spaces, one and all.
one thing that
No,
freaks
no,
me
no,
out.
no, no.
One thing that freaks me out is like seeing stuff like that where someone's trapped in rocks and just it's all
Yeah,
claustrophobic. Like I really struggle with that as well.
so do I. I can't be
Yeah.
doing with that at all. They put me in an MRI machine. I had to press the button to get out. I didn't know. I didn't know I was claustrophobic 4 years ago.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I was pressed the button. He says, "What's wrong with me?" I said, "Get me out of this." Nah, get me out. And they end up having to give me a blindfold yeah, and then put me back in.
Wow.
It was really bizarre because I was going, I'm not claustrophobic. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Well, it's yeah, no, I wouldn't be cave potholing
yeah.
or whatever you call it
The idea
for
of
nobody.
being trapped in a small space just freaks me out.
No, no, especially and like it's happened. So many people have tried to do them 2 foot spaces and they've get stuck and died.
This is it. So
Crazy, but I mean, even the divers and the big underground lagoons, the guy says the first rule is, "I'm looking after number one."
yeah.
I went, "Well, aren't you just good crack at holiday?"
So
Aye.
Owen, where can people find yourself and the Wolves of Chernobyl? Maybe after listening to this podcast on werewolves, they might want to check out the Wolves of Chernobyl.
The Wolves of Chernobyl. We have book expert excerpts. I can never say it. I can't spell it. I mean, say it. Is on Time Warriors and Beyond website. I'm also on Instagram. Posted a load of promos last night for the books.
Nice.
On the Time Warriors author, same for Facebook and Twitter. But it's Time Warriors Above and Beyond is the main website. So please check it out. And thank you for all your support so far, folks, for these podcasts, because it really is, it doesn't go unnoticed and it really is appreciated.
Absolutely. Every bit
Yeah,
of feedback is greatly appreciated, and all the suggestions have
yeah.
been really good and interesting, and we will look into getting through some of them when we can. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Stephen Carey Stories. There will be a link to my Gordon Knight Bad Dreams book in the description if you want to go check that out. And we will be, if you want more horror content, don't forget to subscribe. I almost always forget to say that at the end, but someone told me you should always say that at the end, so I'm going to make the effort. So if you want
Yeah.
more horror content, please subscribe. And like, comment, and share, and all that malarkey.
Yeah.
The usual jazz.
I know. I know. Or if you're scrolling on Instagram, something to get the reels come up and don't scroll past me. I go, geez, the first thing I'm doing is scrolling past that. No, don't be shouting at me over Instagram. There you go. Another one in the can.
There you go. All right, folks, we'll see you again next week. Bye bye.
Good luck. Bye.